Hello everyone, my name is Shubham Santosh Pandit and today's video topic is exception handling in Java. So the exception handling in Java is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors so that the normal flow of the application can be maintained. So we will learn about what is the exception in Java. The meaning of exception is a abnormal condition. In the Java, an exception is an event that disrupts the normal flow of the program. It is an object which is thrown at runtime. So after that, what is exception handling? Exception handling is a mechanism to handle runtime errors such as class not found exception, IO exception, SQL exception, then remote exception, etc. Then what is the advantage of exception handling? The core advantage of exception handling is to maintain the normal flow of the application, and exception normally disrupts the normal flow of the application. That is why we need to handle the exception. Let us understand the what is exception handling by one example. Suppose there are 10 statements in a Java program and exception occurs at the fifth statement. The rest of the code will not be executed. That is, statement 6 to 10 will not be executed. However, when we perform exception handling, the rest of the statement will be executed. That is why we use exception handling in Java. What is the hierarchy? What is the hierarchy of Java exception classes? The Java lang throwable class is a root class of Java exception hierarchy, inherited by two subclasses, the exception and the errors. The hierarchy of Java exception classes is as follows. First, there are types of exceptions and errors which are thrown. The types of exception are IO exception, SQL exception, class not found exception, runtime exception. And in runtime exception there are four main types: arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, and index out of bound exception. And then there are two types of index out of bound exception. There are array index out of bound exception and string index out of bound exception. And after that, errors. There are three types of errors. First is stack overflow, second is virtual machine error, and third is out of memory error. Types of there are various. We will discuss various types of exceptions in Java. There are mainly two types of exceptions: checked exceptions and unchecked exception. An error is considered as the unchecked exception. However, according to Oracle, there are three types of exception, namely checked exception, unchecked exception, and last one is errors. So what is the difference between checked and unchecked exception? The checked exception, the class that directly inherits the throwable class except runtime exception and error, are known as checked exception. For example, IO exception, SQL exception, etc. Checked exception are checked at compile time. And then unchecked exception, the class that inherits the runtime exception are known as unchecked exception. For example, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, array index out of bound exception, etc. Unchecked exceptions are not checked at the compile time, but they are checked at runtime. And third one is errors. The error is irrecoverable. Some examples of error are out of memory error, virtual machine error, assertion error. So what is Java exception keyword? Java provides 5 keywords that are used to handle the exception. The following table describes each and every type. First is try keyword. The try keyword is used to specify a block where we should place an exception code. It means we can't use try block alone. The try block must be followed by either catch or finally block. Then the next is a catch block. The catch block is used to handle the exception. It must be preceded by try block, which means we can't use catch block alone. It can be followed by finally block later. Then finally, the finally block is used to execute the necessary code of the program. It is executed whether the exception is handled or not. Then next is a throw keyword. Throw keyword is used to throw an exception. Then next is a throws. The throws keyword is used to declare exception. It specifies that there may occur an exception in the method. It doesn't throw the exception. It is always used with method signature. So let's see an example of a Java exception handling in which we are using try catch statement to handle the exception. In one class which will name as Java exception, and in that we will take a void method. We will take int data equal to 100 by 10. So to check this, we will use try keyword with curly braces. In that we'll add int data equal to 100 by 0, and in catch we will check for arithmetic exception E, and that will sys out print E, and sys out will add rest of the code. So exception in the main thread, so it will show divide by 0, which is java.lang.arithmetic exception. And after that it will show directly the next line which we have added in the catch statement, that is rest of the code. So in this, the exception is handled by try and catch block. Scenario where arithmetic exception occurs: if we divide any number by 0, there is occurs an arithmetic exception. For example, int a is equal to 50 by 0 or something 20 by 0. It will show the arithmetic exception. And the scenario where null pointer exception occurs is if we have null value in any variable. Performing any operations on the variable throws a null point exception. For example, string s is equal to null, and in sysout ln s dot length, so it will show the null point exception. And Next is the scenario where array index out of bound exception occurs. When an array extends to its size, the array index out of bound exception occurs. There may be other reasons to occur array index out of bound. Consider the any statement. For example, int a array equal to new int 5, and after that we have added a of 10 equal to 50, so it will show array index out of bound exception. So that is all about exception handling. Thank you.